Hey, everybody, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Actually, I think I'm Admiral Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat, but whatever. How are you, people? This is going to be fun. I hope that some of you saw this so that we can give it a talk. For those who don't, who haven't seen it, though, I'm going to try to bring you up to speed as much as possible we'll see how we do, but we'll get it done. This is a very interesting documentary, people. Way more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be dog crap. The Nurse Who Loved Me, good to see you. Allegedly Trouble. Man, I love the name. Woofy, how are you? Diane McGraw, good to see you. Motherbird63, I saw you in someone else's chat this morning, but I didn't want to blow the chat up, but I saw you in there. Kate Christie, how are you? Woofy, what's happening? David Clark. Hey, Great Britain. Tan Louis. All right, Mother Rona Cooley. Kate Murphy with the broken wings. Dead Cell, Cat Dam. How are you, Cat Dam? Paula D. Penley, good to see you. Christy Wolf. All right. We're going to fire this thing up and get this boat underway shortly. Cajun Queen, Galen, Laura Rodney, how are you? My dentures, amazing music. Caroline, hey, Cass, from Scotland. I love it. Kate Murphy, how are you? Hello, Meredith Lind, happy Wednesday. Good to see you. Robin Miners is here. Good to have you. You like the pimp hat? It is here. It is official. Not the first time. Been a while. Majesty, how are you? Cajun Queen, Kerry Wilson, Tommy Bird, Jan E, Ann Brown, Monica Larimore. See, I'm trying to shame you, Christy, to come back more often. Sherry LeBron, rather. I'm sorry, Sherry. I had Christy on the mind. For Have and Grim. Hey, to you too. Lacey Silver, Rhonda. My dad used to say Rhonda. It was something he picked up from the Lenny and Squiggy skit a million years ago, but he really had fun with that name. Lumen, good to see you. Sarah Pooley. You're planning to watch the Diddy doc later today, says Meredith Lynn. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Normally, I would never advertise for something like that. Danette McClure, good to see you. Lori Hart, Robin Bliss, Truth Finder. Hey, Janet. This is your first time able to watch a live? Shut right up. Well, that's just downright crazy. SMG Infinity from Panama City, Florida. Glad that you're here. Look at that, huh? David Clark says, hi, Laura. Always good to see somebody else from London. We got a lot of people from London these days. Sharona, good to see you. Last night with Casper was great. Casper's a really good guy. Tara Jackson, good to see you. Craig Rath, how are you? Annika's mom. Have I been demoted? Oh, you don't have any idea. You don't have any idea. But so, Jeremy Fowler, how are you? So this documentary came out from the Peacock. Now, there are people that are going to make jokes. Peacock is not known for being, I guess, it doesn't have the best reputation or the biggest reputation of any of the larger streaming services. But I think that it's interesting, right, that Peacock did this for a big reason. And we're going to lead off with this. So in this video from Peacock, this documentary, they question the woman who was assaulted with the woman was sexually assaulted using a remote control. It's a horrific story. And to listen to it in her own words is one of the most disturbing things ever. But the kid gloves that they dealt with this woman on, there was not one question asked of her for any reason whatsoever to question her story. And by the way, I agree with that. But this is the same crew, right? This is the same company that absolutely shredded Voldemort's accuser, right? And wanted details and what's up with her dad and where was this gas station? And you said that it was a 20-minute ride. If it's a 20-minute ride, then you couldn't be in. They ripped her to shreds. What was the difference? Maybe it was because she was autistic. Huh? Maybe it was more fun to pick on the autistic person. Or maybe Voldemort is still part of the protected, because one of the interesting things is he is very, very animate, right? Absent in this. He is completely absent in this video. You would know Voldemort existed if you watched this. Now, it's the making of a bad boy. It's not the making of a Rockefeller, right? It's the making of a bad boy. But this starts out with talking to a friend of his, right? And this friend's name is Tim. He's never come forward before. right? Maybe for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is he's probably hard to find because he lives off grid. This guy lives in a cabin in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, right? He's splitting and burning his own wood. He's off the power grid, folks. Like, this guy's out there. And he has this amazing little room off of his bathroom, right? Like, one of the walls right next to the commode opens. And if you go in that back room, well, that's where he keeps his gold and platinum albums, because he was a producer on some big boy stuff. Some bad boy stuff, rather. Biggie Smalls. He produced a couple of really big stuff, and then ran like hell and disappeared. The way this guy is living is, it looks like somebody who is paranoid that there's someone out to get him. He's out there alone in the woods. Who is he? He was Diddy's best friend, and actually, you may as well almost call him a brother, because when Diddy moved to Mount Vernon, this guy moved into the same house. He shared the Mount Vernon house with Diddy. And he was very open about Janice Combs, Diddy's mom. Now, I know people have alleged, and I have said every time I brought it up, allegedly, it might not be his mom. I don't think you can watch this documentary, walk away from it saying that's not his mom. The images, the pictures, you're going to see a lot of stuff you've never seen before. There's some great pictures and some great footage and stuff from when Diddy was a kid. They got a picture of him at 4 years old, and he looks exactly like he does if he's going onto the red carpet. Now, the styles were a little bit different because it was 1970, right? This would have been 73. But he was decked out. He was wearing jewelry. He was wearing white loafers. And his friend talked about how he was always different. He also talked about how he was always a little bit soft. He was always picked on. And his friend Tim kind of took care of him until he went into the military. When he came back from the military, he wasn't Sean Combs anymore. He had become Puff. And he recounts a conversation where Puff said to him, I get pushed around. I get beat on. People call me a wimp. They call me a bitch. Well, that dude's gone. Sean Combs is gone. I'm Puffy. Nobody's pushing up on me ever again. It's amazing the number of people who are interviewed in this documentary that said, I don't know who he is. Best friends. People that have known him their entire lives. And they talk about this switch in personality. They also talk about how desperate he was to get on at Uptown Records, right? Keep in mind, as a young black guy, he's going to a Howard University. He's a freshman there, and he's doing anything he can to try to get a job working at Uptown. And in the documentary, it says, and he did anything that needed to be done for the people that were running this place, Andre Harrell and those. Now, it's been allegedly, Andre Harrell used Diddy as a boy toy. So did everybody else in the music industry, allegedly. We also got a lot more news about his relationship with Clive Davis, right? Yeah, Truth Finder, right? This looks like a Diddy hat for sure. Something that he would be playing when he was, wearing when he was younger. What's really interesting is there is someone in there who says, same person, Tim, his best friend, lived in his basement and worked in the early days of the record label. Come here, squirrel. But he said he saw a check made out to Diddy, right, for $60 million. 60. 55 million of it allegedly came from Clive Davis and was given as an advance for him to help get Bad Boy up and off the ground. I had never heard that. I had never heard that anywhere. I don't know if you all had heard that. Put a 2 in the chat if that's the first time you've heard this. That he was given $55 million as an advance to get his business off the ground. Now, there are people out there that have alleged that that Wolf, right? Wolf Jones, his bodyguard, gave him the money to get Bad Boy off the ground. That has been a rumor forever. Gene Deal talks about it. Everybody talks about it. $55 million advance from Clive Davis. What the hell did Clive see in him that he would give him $55 million? Or is that the beginning of this conspiracy? Is that the beginning of this RICO case? Because I'll tell you what, I think it is. I'm telling you right now, I think it is. We talk about ants on the lifeboat, right? If you're new here, we talk about ants, automatic negative thoughts. They take you apart. they used an acronym in here that I absolutely love, right? There was a psychiatrist in there, a doctor, that was talking about Diddy's childhood. And she talked about adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences. Hold on, squirrel. Come on, you little snot. Get in here. In or out. So, sorry, folks. Not particularly professional, but it is a cat. You got to understand. These adverse childhood experiences. ACEs. I love that, people. We're going to be using it because I really, really dig it. Clive Davis or some other mobster is probably his dad. Johnny, his dad was a mobster, right? And they talk about this in the documentary. And I've talked about this here before. But his dad worked for the largest H pusher on the Eastern Seaboard. He did. He also was a numbers runner. So this guy, right? No two ways about it. What this dude was doing, you know what, Wolfie? We'll let that one slide this time. Apparently he passed the egg test, right? You guys are rotten. You really are. This is one of those situations, folks, where we're getting to see some stuff. This is rare because this isn't a documentary where they brought together 500 facts and put them together in a nicer package, right? And I love those documentaries, by the way. I really do. That's not what this is. This documentary is coming out with stuff that I promise you is going to be new to you. There's a lot of stuff that gets said in this documentary that, like that $55 million check from Clive Davis to get this thing up and off the ground. You are such a cat. Can you be on the right side of the door just once? The correct side of the door. So the Clive Davis check. One of the other things that you find out is as Diddy is progressing through the ranks, right? There is a shift that starts to happen. The people that talk about Diddy in the really early days, right, said he was one of the most respectable, the way he treated women, all of this. And there was a shift that borders on like almost like a dual personality. I think that the characters, right? Oh, I'm sure of it. There's no question in my mind that Clive didn't supply the money. He signed the check. And the big thing of that is not, to me, whose cash it is, right? Because obviously the dude's a gatekeeper for a lot of other large and powerful people. But the fact that he was chosen, right? And the fact that the story we got about the $300K he got from Wolf being how he built this, it's way less impressive a story if this guy was working with $55 million in his budget, right? The making of a mogul. He took $300,000 of street money, right? He took $300,000 of allegedly dope cash, right? Well, that's a hell of a different story, isn't it? That's a hell of a different story, isn't it? $55 million budget to go out and start throwing these massive parties and doing all of these things. We've been speculating since this thing broke of how a guy with $300K gets an office building, recording equipment, all of the stuff, daddy's house, studio, right? Paying rent in Manhattan, like all of the stuff that you had to do to try to get this pulled off, right? This is really a lot less of an impressive feat, right? So allegedly he worked for Nicky Barnes. Now, whether or not that's the truth, right? Nicky Barnes has the kind of the biggest name in that part of the world. However, he was working with that organization, what his proximity was or whatever. But the word is, and Gene Deal has said this, and obviously there's two narratives on this, because Sean Combs sure as hell isn't going to walk around saying my dad was a rat, right? By the way, I'm not mad at his dad. What do I care? But his dad apparently provided some information. The information, it's the cat on the other side of the door. The information that he gave to them got somebody busted and got him killed. That is the story, and it is the story that is recounted in the documentary. His mom, absolutely. Christy Wolf says both his mom throws wild parties when he was young. This is absolutely a thing, right? A combination of nature and nurture, to be sure, right? his dad had some gangster genes. But I want to tell you something. I struggle with this, right? I really do. I struggle with this. So I don't think you pass down the gangster gene, right? People aren't, I don't believe, as a criminal, I don't believe that people are born with the thought of, I want to go out and I want to break the law. I don't think that that's how it works. I really don't. I don't think that you inherit that from dad. Now, what he did inherit from dad, to be sure, comes from the not the nature, but the nurture, right? You know you're coming into a world with that reputation. And then, according to this documentary, a standard night at the Combs household, right, would have had a lot of gay men, a lot of lesbian women, a lot of prostitution, a lot of dope getting done, people turning tricks in the house, right? Allegedly, his house looked like a freak off. They said it was not uncommon at all to open a door and walk in and see people in there having sex, right? That was just not a thing. Well, this is odd, isn't it? Right? This is another thing that is conspicuous to me. So we're going to talk about in this documentary, they go into the tragedy at the college campus where Diddy's mismanagement of a charity basketball game that had a lot of big names coming to it, like Mike Tyson. If you had any idea how big Mike Tyson was at that time, that alone could have been a problem. But on that same night, there was going to be Heavy D and the boys were going to be there. Mary J. Blige is going to be there. There were a lot of kind of these Run DMC, Run DMC was massive at the time. They were the biggest name in hip hop or rap or whatever. And he oversold the hell out of it. The place sat 2,700 people. We've done this story before. They alleged somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 people were trying to get in. And this ended up getting 9 people killed. 10 technically, if you ask me, my personal opinion, because one of the people were pregnant. Amy, a artist. Good to see you. Ann Brown says the Smex parties as a kid would desensitize him to it and how to conduct yourself. I think there's no doubt about that. And it also probably would have made you, far more open to things like bisexuality, right? Group sex, things that are very common in 2025, but were not particularly common in the 1970s. They were just as common. They were not out in the open like they are in 2025. I don't think that there were any less of that activity going on. But certainly, we live in a different environment in 2025 than we did in 1975. But he was in Mount Vernon, New York. We have an image in our head of Diddy growing up on the tough streets of Harlem. He didn't. It's just not at all what happened. He lived in a beautiful house in Mount Vernon, which is a suburb, and his childhood best friend and brother, for all intents and purposes, they lived in the same house. He described the first time he saw the house as realizing that, this was a holy crap moment that there were black people living this way. He said every black person he saw, he said they were black, but they looked different. They were shinier. They were healthier. He had never seen this. So this narrative that we get of Diddy living in the tough streets and he's in there just grinding it out in the ghetto, it didn't happen, right? Like a lot of Sean Combs' story, it didn't happen, right? They have crafted this narrative. He grew up notoriously soft until he joined a gang they call the Same Gang. The Same Gang is Gene Deal and his crew, right? This was I don't think of it the same way as I think about a gang like we think about today. You know what I mean? Like, this was a group of guys that ran together, went to parties together, watched each other's backs, but I don't think about it in terms of the way that I do like MS-13, right? Or those kind of gangs that are way more crime driven than watching each other's backs. This was a tough city. This is a tough place to grow up. And did these guys do some dirt? I'm sure of it, right? But I don't think it to the extent of some of the other gangs. But Sean Combs was brought into this gang. And Gene Deal talks about that. Correct. It's a narrative, and now we are all questioning it. Elaine, I think that's probably the perfect way to put it. Sorry, hold on one second. Bear with me, peeps. having a pretty rough morning. Small part of Scotland to the party. Welcome, Scotland. Hey, Snake, good to see you. And Snake just put up a link to Johnny Scoville's YouTube channel. And if you guys could put one up to Casper and to my fiance as well, that would be great. Yeah, obviously, right? I agree with you. The industry made him into a powerful, entitled person. Money doesn't make somebody a scumbag. I think there are people who disagree with me on this. I know some really, really rich people that never really turned into anything other than what they were. They're good people. But then there are people who have bad wiring from Jump Street. These are not good people. These are people who take joy in harming others. And I think Diddler is that person. And all of a sudden, you got this guy that he's a little light in the scruples department, right? He's got some issues when it comes to being a solid dude. And we know this, yeah? Now give him $55 million, right? And access to a crap load of chemicals that render people completely zombified. Shadow Woman, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. It's, hold on, I just saw a comment I liked. I think that's a great comment. Tommy Bird says, being a dad is tough, but I'll be big enough to admit that being a mom has to be much tougher. How about if the mom has to be a mom and a dad, right? Reese is a perfect example of this, right? Even when throughout, and it's probably personal stuff I shouldn't talk about, but she has had to really act like mom and dad for her for the entire life of her kid, and that's not an easy thing to do. And I think that Janice Combs found herself in the same position. Allegedly, she got a pile of money when the husband died. She was able to buy the house outright. That's what they say in this video. When his old man died, she was left money. Now, I don't know how that worked out. Insurance policy, the fellas gave her a big old package of cash or whatever. I don't know. But she was left a lot of money. And then she was a teacher and a substitute teacher, and she turned tricks, right? She was hooking. And she was doing it, allegedly, to provide the best life she could for Sean Combs. Maybe that's the case. But I promise you, if your mom is bringing through 6 guys a week, 7 guys a week, 9 guys a week that she's having sex with, this is going to do something to the kid watching it. We are positive that is his mom. At least from the documentary standpoint, the people that are involved here literally were there prior to the killing and then after the killing, if that makes sense. Like his friend that is in this documentary can talk about the days before Diddy's dad died, and he knew Diddy's mom. So those rumors seem to be that. Just jumped on board from the UK. Something love. I've been a mama and a dad. Hubby was always inside and now passed away. It's hard. I am sorry to hear that, but my hat is off literally to any of the women that have to be both. If you ever want to hear one of the greatest, it'll tear your heart out. But if you can watch the Academy Awards speech from Philip Seymour Hoffman, it was either the Academy Award or the Golden Globe. It was one or the other. But at his acceptance speech, he thanked his mother. And he said, raising a son is hard for a mom. But when there's not a dad around, he said, when I was rooting for a hockey team, she had to become a hockey fan. When I started to do this, she had to do that. And it's a heart-wrenching speech. And he ends it by saying, but, now we're here together and we're at the party. Like, we made it. It's heart-wrenching because drugs killed him. I was a big fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman and his work. Reese is absolutely in love with the dude, but I always thought he was very, very, he was very talented. Yeah, rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman, for sure, right? Gail, I'm glad that you did. No one should ever suffer in silence, right? For real, nobody should ever suffer in silence. I think that for me, the biggest takeaway of this documentary, we talk about how this was an open secret forever, right? I'm astounded by how compartmentalized this seemed to be. There are some people in this documentary who are listed as music producers that genuinely seem shocked. There's a guy in there that claims he saw Diddy doing CPR on somebody at the night of the basketball charity event, right? That he was trying to save people's lives. That's bullshit. It never happened. Gene Deal said it never happened. Everybody there said it never happened. This guy is a plant. There's one dude in this video, and I can't remember his name now, but they call him a childhood friend. You know, they asked him about parties. Do you ever go to any of the parties? He goes, oh, yeah, yeah. Do you ever see any drugs there? Yeah, not really. People smoking a little bit of weed, but, you know, everything he said flew in the face of everything everyone else said. It's almost humorous. It's like they wanted to throw somebody in there to let you know that this is just BS. And I'll tell you the other thing that's a takeaway that I think everyone will come away with. You're gonna like Al B. Shore a lot more than you did. That's my humble opinion. When you watch, he's classy through this, and it's got to be very difficult for him. And he also talks a couple of times. He'll say, "I can't answer this because of pending litigation." So he's in the process of taking a run at Diddy. What he does say is he talks about the day in 2018 when Kim Porter died, and he says that was the day that she was murdered. And then he said, "Hey, was I supposed to say allegedly to that?" Right? I'll be sure is 100% convinced that Kim Porter was murdered. Now, we all know the stories, right? Allegedly, this guy bought her casket prior to her death. That's terrifying. If that's the truth, and they can prove that, right? Because everybody says this. Now, I don't know how you chase that one down, right? If you're, honestly, if you do what I do, how do you chase that down? How do you, but allegedly, all of the people that, there's a lot of people that allege this was purchased, right? Like a month before her death or something. She's 41. You're planning a funeral. What? You thought, oh, there's a good deal on them. I like getting a good deal on things, Mr. Sean calls. Yeah, he bought her coffin in advance, right? That is what a golden one. Okay, who buys a person's coffin 30 to 40 years in advance? You danced many a night away to Al B. Shore's music. Let's get something straight, too. The people in the early days, most of them could sing. Most of these people were really entertainers, and they wrote their own stuff, and they had talent, right? That went away. This afternoon, download an app off the internet that will change you into a good singer. I saw it yesterday. I didn't download it yet, but I'm gonna. There's an auto-tune app that will take you from sounding like an average everyday hack to a professional. I would imagine put your hands up. I'm kidding. There's probably a lot of people that really benefit from that. Johnny Scoville nails it. He says they'd rather have talentless people today. Damn right. Damn right. Look, here's the thing. They say in the video, he became a kingmaker. He was a guy that could say, you're going to be the next big thing, right? You're going to be the next big thing. I can do that. Well, if you can do that to anybody, you're going to hire the person who does the writing, right? Now you don't have to deal with this artist screaming about, well, I wrote the music and this and that, and I gave that to you, fool. I bought that. I brought it in, right? You got all this put together. If you're able to go in the studio and make that kind of magic, or you're able to write your own lyrics or whatever, that kind of talent can say, I think I want more money on the next album. I just don't think I'm getting enough. And if you don't think that's cool, well, then I'll just take my ball and go home, because I can sing and I can write. And if you don't want to pay me, Columbia will. And if Columbia doesn't want to pay me, maybe Arista will, but somebody's going to pay me. But if you have no talent and you know that this guy paid for this, he used the auto-tune, he got a good band behind you and all this stuff, you go, man, I'm just so happy to be rich. You know you're a phony. You sit there every day doing that imposter syndrome thing. Now, whether you're the real deal Holyfield or whether you're some fake dude that they're paying, right, everybody to make look good, you're still going to generate that $100 million, aren't you? But if you got talent, you might want 40 of it. And if you're just some dude that they grabbed, or some chick that they just grabbed in the hood and said, we're going to make you rich, and they give you 7 or 8, they give you just enough so that you can look good, and they get you a Bentley that they lease, and they get you a Rolex, right? This is just how they did this, right? That's why right before the shit hit the fan, Diddy was giving everybody on earth back their music rights. He got a conscience. He didn't get a conscience. He realized exactly what was happening. He knew what was coming, and he wanted a little bit of good publicity. It didn't really work well. The lifeboat is a big part of my sobriety. Tara Glider, pretty big part of mine too. Congratulations to you and to everybody else that's fighting the good fight today. And I appreciate the support. I really do. Jacqueline T from Glasgow. How cool is that? Look at the doggy. Has that got a flower in the dog's mouth? Oh, man. That is the coolest thing ever. It does help to have mom context. Yeah, no, it does. It does. It helps to have, but they would rather have talentless people. Does that disturb you a little bit? Does it? How about all of the haranguing that goes on behind the scenes? Allegedly, they signed Whitney to a $100 million contract, right? Before she passed. She had signed a $100 million contract. That's what they're alleging, right? I've heard this in 5 or 6 different videos. Her voice was shot. Everybody that knew her said she couldn't sing anymore. And I don't know if you've ever smoked crack, but it's a very hot burn. It comes off the back of your throat like few things, right? Very often, if you're doing it right, usually they're using a hotter flame. People like to use a torch if at all possible. And you're just talking about a very, very hot burning. It's terrible for your voice. And allegedly, she smoked a lot of crack, right? Destroyed her life. Pearl, I talked about this yesterday. I think it's kind of fascinating if you want to know the truth. What's more fascinating to me is he didn't unfollow Diddy, right? He did not unfollow Diddy. And there were 4 other people that he unfollowed. One of them was Scooter Braun. We went over this a little bit yesterday. Ryan Good, who was his best man at his wedding, Allison Kay, and then Kenny Hamilton, a bodyguard. It's an odd little group of people to unfollow. But all of this, people, all of this is starting to unravel. Nothing that we're seeing right now, people are going, maybe it's a nothing burger. Nothing that we're seeing is a nothing burger. There is significance to everything that people are doing right now. I promise you there are. There's all kinds of significance. And I'll tell you what, I don't talk about content creators. As a rule of thumb, I don't talk about content creators. I would rather talk about issues and things like that. But every once in a while, something comes up, and it's almost impossible not to. Maybe I can do it without that. There are content creators that are kind of in a dead panic because of a letter that was drafted by Mark Agnifilo. And what Mark Agnifilo said was this: hey, we got the 9 tapes of the freak-offs, right? We have them. And guess what? Cassie Ventura is having a good time. She's looking like she is loving it. She is absolutely 100% enjoying herself. Therefore, this obviously can't be great. Right? She's into it. Now, I'll tell you guys something. There are content creators that are going, yeah, I'm kind of nervous about this. Listen, it's 2025. If you maybe read about human T and what those statutes say, right? You can't trick a person. You can't coerce a person. You can't entice a person. You can't entice a person to go somewhere else and do it. We saw what happens when Cassie Ventura didn't look like she was having fun. Remember when we saw her in the hallway of that hotel? She was stomping off and she was very, very unhappy. Okay? What happened when she was unhappy? Sean Combs tossed a vase at her, punched her in the head, kicked her, dragged her by the hair. Right? That's a learned behavior, folks. That's what happens when you don't look like you're having fun. Cassie Ventura was in there, right? And doing whatever she was ordered to do. I don't care what it looks like. I don't. That woman was in survival mode for 10 years. That's my opinion, right? That's my opinion. Did the first freak off? Was it fun? I bet it was. I've done some stupid things in my life sexually. And the day that I did them, I thought they were all pretty damn cool. I really did. And then you wait a couple of days and the reality of what happened. And then people get in their feelings and weird things happen. And I'm not a swinger for a reason, right? But we really got to get our shit together with what this human T means. Entice. So if your boss says to you, you come out here and you do this with 4 guys, right? And I'm giving you this record label. That's not just bad form. That's not just a casting couch. That's human T. You just enticed somebody to come across a state line and do it. That's human T. Get it? So the people out there going, well, hey, it's a contract. Girl wanted a part in the movie. The guy wanted. No, you can't trick. You can't entice. That's enticement. And why can't you do that? I'll always come back to the convict, right? If you walked into a prison and you started walking up and down the tiers and said, first guy willing to get on his knees and book a whammer goes home, I promise you, someone is going to perform that sex act, and they're probably not gay. Does that make them gay? It makes them desperate. It makes them willing to do anything for their freedom or willing to do everything for their whatever. But once that happens, consensual waved bye-bye a long time ago. And we're not talking about schmecks. We're talking about human tea. And this is really hard for some idiots to get. And these are some big content creators, people that you probably dig. Man, like, you need to read this statute. This is going to be bad. And it's going to be bad for people like Cassie. Wait till you hear all the asshats that start coming out of the woodwork because of this Agnifilo letter. This is the sleaziest thing for a lawyer to do. I hope the world realizes how sleazy this is. If this was just a grape case, right? No one on earth would say, she kind of looked like she was into it, right? She looked a little like she was into it. Good God, man. Good God. Do you know where these videos came from? He saved them. And one of the things he said was, why would she save them if they were SA? Right? If this was her getting graped, why would she save them? Because it's her getting graped, you dumbass. I'll bet you there weren't any other free, things like that on her phone. This was evidence. Why would you get rid of it? Right? Well. This is certainly an interesting question, isn't it? Right? This is certainly an interesting question. You think Kim Porter gave Al B. Short any receipts? No, I don't. But somebody hacked her phone. This is what came out in this documentary. He said somebody hacked her phone. You know what else he said? Wait for this one. He said, you know why Kim got sick and died? Huh? Because she was meeting with Cassie. He was setting up meetings between her and Cassie. And you know something? If that phone got hacked, in this video is Ariel Mitchell, the attorney that a lot of you don't like. You kind of think she's an ambulance chaser. You've all sent me all kinds of this is something that you feel very strongly about, right? But she represents Courtney Burgess. Courtney Burgess, whether you believe him or don't, and I'll tell you something right now, if he told me it was Wednesday, I would look at a friggin' calendar before I would just assume it was Wednesday. And I'm not judging him because I've got this sixth sense. I'm judging him because he goes on a show on Monday, right, at 2:00 and says something. And then he goes in a show at 5:00 on Monday and says something different. Well, that makes it really hard. Right? But he did go to the grand jury. And he did show up with something to give to the grand jury. They talk about it in this. It's really starting to be, it's making you question whether or not the story's bullcrap. However he got it, I got it from this dude, and no, I didn't get it from this guy. Chris Todd gave it to me. No, I gave it to Chris Todd. Okay, I don't believe any of that crap. None of it. But if you listen to Al B. Shore, the story that Al B. Shore tells gives us a real chance that Kim Porter book is real. I've never, ever come out and said I thought the Kim Porter book was real. Go find me saying that somewhere. What I've always said was, it's disturbing as hell, man. The videos that they have right now as evidence of freak-offs were given to the prosecution from Cassie Ventura. There are other videos. People always say, who is this? We don't even know who victim 2 is. Trust and believe it's Little Rod, right? It's got to be. That's got to be Little Rod. So he's got a crap load. He says somewhere around 100 videos or something that he has. His. Not stuff that had to get the doors kicked in. Not anything that happened during the raids. This is what Little Rod had that he was going to turn over as evidence. Cassie allegedly turned over 9 or 8 or something like that videos of freak-offs. And Agnifilo, he says, No, these things are proof that what we're saying is real. She wanted to do this. She likes this. She's into it.
How evil is that?
Yeah, how evil is that? But you know something? We live in a day where we ought to be better than this. Not being an ass, but we live in a day where we as human beings got to do a little better. I've said this on the boat. We're going to stick with it. And if you don't like it, there are a ton of other channels that you don't have to worry about. I promise. But we're going to believe the victim until the victim is disproven. I'm sick to my stomach watching how Peacock, owned by NBC, right? That's why they call it Peacock. It's the symbol. NBC treated an alleged Jane Doe, right? An alleged victim of gang rape. They treated her like hammered dog crap and tried to humiliate her and pick her story apart and just make her out to be a liar. Did everything they could to poke holes in her story as if they were a defense attorney, right? Doing the work for Voldemort. That's what it looked like. Anybody want to argue with me on that? Okay, now if you saw the video of Peacock interviewing the girl who was assaulted with the remote control, tell me they treated those two women the same way. Put a deuce in the chat if you find it obvious, right, that all parties involved are avoiding Voldemort like he is kryptonite. How the hell is he not going to get brought up in anything? And then how the hell is J-Lo? We heard all about these 9 bodies. We're not going to include the nightclub shooting. How are you not going to talk about J-Lo? Well, starts to stink, doesn't it? You're going to do a show called The Making of a Bad Boy, right? Hey, Robin, good to see you. Love people from the Northeast. This is jacked up, folks. Like, this is really and honestly jacked up. We're looking at stuff. Yeah, Albie sure can't. Yeah, that's a really good point, though. Because Al is in litigation, he can't say everything that he would like to say, and you can tell he'd like to say it. You know, all of these people who get sick and die, right? One of the cool parts, you don't see a lot of Jaguar Wright in here, right? But when you do, it's that famous clip when she's sitting on the blue couch and she starts talking about all of the people from Uptown Records, right? And she says, Andre Harrell is dead. And she's going down the whole list, right? Heavy D is dead. She's like, the only 2 left are Diddy and Al. And Al almost died. And that's kind of the icebreaker that they use to get into that whole part. And it's beautifully done. It's a very well-made documentary. However, as much as they trash the hell out of Diddy, and they do, there's no talk of Chirac. There's no talk of this massive liquor company, $200 million lawsuit, allegations of racism, right? You're not going to mention Diageo? Seems odd. Don't mention Diageo. Don't mention Voldemort. Don't mention J-Lo. What do they all got in common? A stink load of money. Okay? A stink load of money. And people that are still in the protected camp. And you know something? Everybody's still speculating on whether or not she's Celebrity B. Do me a favor. If you were J-Lo and they said she was in there, she watched all of this stuff that happened, right? Would you or would you not come out with a statement just to simply say, I categorically deny that I have ever been in a room where Sean Combs assaulted anybody. I am not Celebrity B. I've not been contacted by any attorneys, and I didn't give them any money to settle, period. Give me a 2 in the chat. If you would have done that, you give me a 2 in the chat if you believe anybody would have done that. I'm sorry, there's no reason on God's green earth that a person with a publicist ain't screaming from the top of the mountaintops, I'm not that girl. You can say anything you want about me, but guess what? It isn't going to prove out to that because I wasn't there. And if I was, right, this is your shot. Yeah, man, I would love to be in that position because you could come out and say, hey, not only was I not there, you lowlives, I'm a human being. If I was in the room where 2 grown men assaulted a 13-year-old girl, I'd have called 911 the second I walked out of that room, right? You could go from being a person that the world kind of thinks a bitch to maybe somebody that gains a little bit of popularity, man. Smirnoff vodka commercial before Vikings games. Weird since Jay-Z's involved in football behind the scenes. Yeah, I'll tell you something. What do you think's gonna happen when this Super Bowl's over? For real. Once again, I hate to keep you voting, but give me a tray if you think this is gonna blow up for Voldemort the second the Super Bowl is over. Because I do. We have a Miss London. Hello, Miss London. Good to have you here. I would love to be on that jury too, man. I really would. Now, there's no chance in God's green earth that I could ever be on a jury, period, because of my past. They assume if you've ever been to prison that you're not going to send anybody to prison, right? I don't know that that's necessarily such a great assumption. I don't think that there are too many convicts that wouldn't like to send Diddy to prison. But who knows? What do I know? Caught live from Western Australia. I love that. I really do. I love that. Yeah, see, I think everybody's kind of in agreement. No, you're right, Gail. You will let that one slide. Gail says, if I was in that room, the ghetto bitch would come out of me. Sorry, Johnny. No, here's the thing, right? Who doesn't do that? I'm sorry, who doesn't do that? I mean, how depraved a human being do you have to be to watch someone assault a 13-year-old? I'm sorry, man. Put me in a room with 3 guys that look like Gene Deal's size. I'll get my butt handed to me, but I promise you I'm going to do what I can to stop that. I promise you. You'd like to believe that anybody put in that situation. I mean, you don't have to kill somebody. How about if you just went, oh, come on, guys, what are you doing? Are you kidding? Bad form. How about if you just ran and hugged the girl? Honestly, as a woman, you went in there and just hugged that child and looked at the two of them like, what are you doing? Think they're going to pull the star off the girl and beat her up to get to the one below her? I don't think so. Whoever celebrity B was could have stopped that. And I don't think she would have had to get violent to do it. Maybe I'm crazy, you know? The Netherlands. I love that. Welcome, Netherlands. I think after the Super Bowl, there's going to be a flood of lawsuits for Voldemort, says Professor Patty. I agree. I also think there's a chance we might see some video, right? I think there's a chance we might see some videos or other things drop. The odds that none of these people ever recorded. You got to know. Honestly, do you know how many times you record something by accident? How many times you just happen to be somewhere recording and then something else goes on behind it? That's half of YouTube. Somewhere there's video out there and things that people don't want to see. Speaking of things that people don't want to see, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to do this to you. I heard a very interesting show with my friend Sean from the Sean Atwood program. And he had on an old friend of his. And he was talking about just how out in the open Diddy was in the gay bar scene and gay club scene in LA. And I was always under the assumption, and maybe you guys are like me, maybe not, but it seems to me that I was under the assumption Diddy really is trying to fly under the radar, right? This, people, I don't know if you can recognize who that is, right? But this was a song, right? And it was a single. And that is the album cover from the single. Now, I don't know about you. That to me looks really out of the closet, right? It really does. But we get this story of how his sexuality, it's a weird album cover, right? Really weird. But what are you looking at? Yeah, what you were looking at was Sean Combs looking like he might have been engaging in some kind of butt play with somebody that had on what looked a lot like a Mickey Mouse kind of a getup. By the way, I don't care this much who you want to sleep with. If the person you want to sleep with is into it and old enough, right? In fact, if you want to sleep with 6 of them at the same time and they're all old enough and they're all into it, knock yourself out. Certainly not my lifestyle, right? But I don't, and it doesn't make any sense to me if you want to know the truth. But I'm not here to, I mean, it's not my gig, right? Honestly, it's not what I'm here for. The stripes, you like the stripes? I like the stripes. Yeah. You walked into that pit, Lori Driscoll. I apologize. God, what a terrible time to show up on the boat. I've heard Voldemort's pet, Beyonce, is becoming estranged from him, living separately. I expect big things are coming after the bowl. I want to tell you something. I spent a lot of my life breaking the law. And you get to a point as a criminal where the things that you're doing that are illegal are all beginning to catch up to you. And you know that the walls are closing in. Now, I've never been a guy that had $2 billion, right? So it's really different for these guys because as the walls are closing in, they're hiring every attorney they can get their hands on, right? For real. They're getting the Spiros and the Agnifilos, and they're getting all of this put together. But you don't hire an attorney because you don't think the walls are closing in on you. And don't give me that, well, they already have attorneys, bullshit. They have corporate attorneys, they have things like that. Spiro, I mean, you hired a hitman. You hired a guy that has represented some clients, right? You're paying out the wazoo because you think you're trying to, This, Wolfie, do I think Quincy is working for the feds? I don't. I think that Quincy, this would be, of course, Diddy's stepson, who they say is adopted. He's not adopted, according to Albie Shore. No, there's no adoption that ever took place. And his last name is not Combs. It's still Brown. And I don't think Quincy is working for the feds. I may end up being shocked, right? I may end up finding out that he ends up in one of those situations where he has to do that. But he seems to me to be very faithful to Sean Combs to a point of it being disturbing, right? He seems to prefer Sean Combs to his real father. And I don't know if that's the truth. I say it appears that way. I think KK is 100% working for the feds. You know what's funny too? They talk about KK briefly, really, really briefly in this documentary. And they talk about her just long enough, right? For them to say her attorneys said this, and this, right? She was not able to respond, but through her attorneys, she responded saying, the walls are closing in on all of them, right? Normal people, they call you and they go, hey, Tommy, what do you have to say about all of the things that people are saying right now? Well, I'll be right back. And then some dude walks in or some woman walks in and goes, hi, how are you? My name is Stacy and I represent Mr. Scoville. And Mr. Scoville says this, and this. I'm always a little bit tripped out when everybody's attorney is given a statement, right? Now, a lot of guilty people, folks. A lot of guilty people. And that letter, I'm gonna tell you something right now. The Agnifilo writing the 1971, well, was she wearing a miniskirt? Response to the whole freak off tapes. Also, we want those. We're going to need those tapes so that we have the ability to defend ourselves. My client's going to need copies of this. You want me to give this sick bastard copies of him assaulting this woman or watching her get assaulted? Let him rub one out in the at MDC Brooklyn on a daily basis? For real, you couldn't let that. That's porn. You couldn't let that in there. Sorry, you don't have access to it. You were there. Why do you got to watch him 14 times? Well, because he's reliving his fun, right? I mean, for real. I would feel weird as an attorney fighting for that. Stipulate, you genius. You're going to say, look, she's having fun. They're going to say, was she enticed? Right? Was she threatened? Well, how did this go on? Because there's a lot more to human tea than I go steal someone, I grab them, I run off with them, And then I go to something like we see in the movies where they're being auctioned off to people in Saudi Arabia. Now, before that sounds too outrageous, the girl that was one of the people on there that was assaulted talked about how he said he was going to cut her. He put a knife inside her mouth. This is the diddler. She allegedly, he put a blade inside her mouth and said he was going to give her a Glasgow smile. To which KK allegedly responds, hey, your customers, right? Your customers are going to prefer her without that. They're going to want her pretty. They then went on to say, we could have you sold right now to a different part of the world. You'll be gone. No one will ever know where you went or that you were missing. Did that really happen? I think it did. Now, were they taking people and selling them into other countries? I have no idea. I'm going to tell you something right now. I have threatened people in my life with things that there was no way on earth I could have made happen or would make happen. Sometimes when you're trying to scare the crap out of somebody, you will say some really, really crazy things, right? Man, I will snip your eyelids off and take flash photography of you for weeks. Just stupid things that roll off of people's mouths while they're threatening folks. But it's scary, right, to hear about. Do you know that when Agnifilo wrote his letter, you know, the one that said, was she wearing high heels? And I'm being facetious, but not by much. The one that basically said, Cassie was into it. You should see all the fun she's having in these porns. I mean, that's kind of what the response was. But it's disturbing and disgusting, right? But I think it's kind of it's designed to be a smokescreen as much as possible. I think the timing of that letter was to get us to not talk about this Peacock documentary. I promise you, most of the Diddy commentators today are going to be talking a lot about Agnifilo and what, you know, missed me. That all of that's BS. We know what this dude is, right? His job is to make Cassie Ventura look like a slut that's really into sex with as many guys as she can get. That's his job. Sadly, because of what Diddy did for a living, he's your boss and he's your boyfriend. That's a problem right there. Right? Keep it real. That's a problem. Doesn't mean you can't date your boss. But if your boss has the ability to make you broke if you stop having sex with him, I think that crosses into human T. Right? Because now there's a threat. Now there's coercion. Now there's enticement. There's all of these things. You got to think about it this way. So what does this need to be for this not to be human T? And the answer is simply this, that she did what she did that day because she loved doing it and for no other reason. I'm not buying it. I'm not. And you can say, well, we don't know what went on. No, we don't. We don't know what went on. Nobody does. But I did watch him drag her by the hair to try to get her back into that hotel room. Right? Well, one of the things is threats. If you're threatening someone, and that's why they're having sex, and I'll tell you what, I have been in situations, I told this story many times, but I got really lippy my first time in prison because I was honestly showing off for a couple of friends that I had already been doing time with, and they were pushing this cop's buttons. And I started pushing the cop's buttons because it was funny. And the cop said to me, oh man, I'm looking over, you know, how many times you've been arrested? He's like, damn, dude, you're a loser. And he starts going through the whole thing. And he's like, and you ain't got a plan. You'll be back. You're going to come here. And I'll just tell you the truth, man. I said to him, no, I got a plan. He said, yeah, what are you going to do? I said, I think I'm going to go and become a personal trainer. He goes, a personal trainer? I go, yeah. From what I understand, convicts can be personal trainers. And there's a lot of people that would actually like to hire a convict because they tend to work out differently and all these things. And I'll get out there and start doing that, maybe build a business that way. And he's like, well, you're a little thick. And I go, well, yeah, no, I would need to lose weight before I could do it. And I thought I would knock off about 60 or 70 pounds banging your daughter. And I didn't say it that way. And I swear to you, I didn't get the R on the word daughter out. Keep in mind, I got my hands cuffed behind my back, but I didn't get the R on daughter out. And he hit me square in the face. In fact, my first ever prison ID, I had a big, huge purple black eye. But it was one of those things that, like, you said what you said, and you ended up getting smacked really quickly in the head for it. No, I don't think Gene Deal will go down. Sorry, hold on one second. Oh, I don't doubt that they are taking people to other countries, and I don't doubt that people are being sold. I don't know yet that that's something that I don't even feel comfortable saying allegedly he was selling people. I don't. But he was, right? From the second, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my story. From the second that cop punched me in the face, right? I learned quickly. It took me 2 seconds to realize that everything this guy said from that point forward, I was going to answer that the way he wanted to hear it. I was going to do exactly what this dude wanted me to do. Now, if you had walked in after me getting punched in the face, you would have said, Tommy likes that dude. He likes that cop. Seriously. And he's the most respectful inmate you've ever seen around a cop. If you had walked in 30 seconds earlier, you would have watched that dude punch me in the face and change my attitude. What we saw in that hallway was Sean Combs changing her attitude. We also saw interviews in this documentary of people that talked about how he changes women's attitudes violently. So don't do shows talking about how, well, they say she was really into it. They say she looked like she's having fun. What's your other option? What's your other option? By her testimony, right, in her law, she would start to vomit days in advance of these freak-offs, knowing what was coming. I don't know whether or not, and I'm not trying to make this too graphic, but we're an hour into this. You guys know what a marital aid is, or a vibrator, a dildo, whatever you want to call it. He bought hundreds of them or whatever. Well, one of the reasons maybe he had 700 of them was he also, for these freak-offs, would get machines delivered, right? And these machines that they would deliver are a sex machine, right? If you ever read like Steely Dan from from the guy that wrote Naked Lunch, from William Burroughs' novel, right? This is a machine that has sex. It's a machine that's like a mechanical penis that goes in and out at whatever speed you want to set it to. This is a sick bastard, right? It wasn't enough to have multiple male sex workers there to abuse your girl. If they got tired or they couldn't perform, you had a machine to do it to her. Well, no wonder it took days of abuse. Drake just filed a blockbuster lawsuit against Diddy's friend from the Peacock documentary. Well, we'll be covering that then. Yeah, then we will have to take a look at that. It's a banger machine, Mother Bird. Yeah, for lack of a better way to put it. But Johnny Scoville sums it up. There is a special place in hell for monsters like him. But here's what I got to say. This is something that needs to be said. No matter what, anyway. Human T. I've done shows with Reese, and I've done shows where the two of us talk about the Royal Order of Justice, right? And people go, "Who cares? It's prostitution. It's the oldest game in the oldest profession on earth." Number one, I think that it isn't the oldest profession on earth. I don't. I think they were doing other stuff before they were doing that. But Gina Reed, yeah. Sharon Clark, I have read, is it Lucy? It wasn't Lucy Lovelace. Linda Lovelace. I read Linda Lovelace's autobiography when I was in prison, and she was coerced viciously into doing the things that she had done. Well, and I'm here to tell you that the girls that work for the jesters, are they coerced? Right? Are they enticed? Now, we don't know if they're threatened. You don't have to be all of them. You just have to be one of them. These women are going to other states to stay in hotels and have intercourse because they are enticed. I promise you that's why they're there. That is why they're there. And they are completely controlled because there is no one. They can't go out of their circle. They can't go out of that group to go do what they do. They are owned. They are property, right? So miss me with the that's the oldest thing, or that's prostitution, or any of that crap going forward? Because I promise you, 2025, if we don't come out of 2025 with 10% less jackwagons and asshats that say stuff like, what was she wearing? Then we failed this. Agnifilo looks like a complete idiot. He was drugged to boot. Yeah, to do these things. Being drugged by the hair, being dragged by the hair to your room after trying to leave is not consensual. No jury will buy it. I don't think any jury will buy it either. I don't. But it's disgusting, right? That this guy has no problem coming out and making that. I'm sorry, people. I know beating on lawyers is low-hanging fruit and all that, but he's married to an attorney who deals in human tea. Like on the other side, how do you go home and look at her? Here's the thing. Even the people that around, they say that there was a time when Cassie really was pretty deep into the chemicals. Duh. I mean, good God in heaven. Can you imagine living the 10 years that she lived? Do you think Kim Porter gave Cassie the tapes? Well, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It really is. The billion-dollar question. And was the unaliving of Kim Porter due to that? That's what Albie Shore maintains, that it was her desire to make contact with Cassie and sort of compare notes and, such that ended up causing her life to be ended. Yeah, there are so many reasons that he ended that. The jesters sound like a bike club without the bikes. Yeah, pretty much, Diane. Pretty much. There are so many reasons he settled that lawsuit fast. That's a fact. There were a lot of reasons that he settled that lawsuit fast, and the biggest of which is he needed to. Right, this was the end of everything for him. This would have been all. This is a wrap, and this is the first. There are 4 other documentaries that I am aware of that are coming out. Each one of these is probably going to be dropping a little bit more information. Hold on one second. Let's do this in this order instead. I'm sorry. Do you think if it wasn't for Cassie's lawsuit, we would all be none the wiser? So she really did everyone a favor. She's a hero that brought down one of the largest scumbags I've ever seen on earth. Absolutely. This is Cassie and Little Rod together are the reason that we're here today and talking. He would be doing exactly what he was doing again and again and again if they hadn't come forward. And you know the proof to that? Huh? Here's the proof to that. The proof is, allegedly on July of last year, he was doing freak offs. They had already raided his house. His lawyers were putting his defense together. They were meeting for the grand jury, and he's booking hotel rooms and having people come in so that he can molest them, right? And videotape it. Yeah, I mean, what they did is downright heroic. Silver Surfer says, another great question. How does Jaguar Wright know 100% what she claims is true? Was she there? A lot of what Jaguar has seen, she saw first person, right? And this is an interesting thing because I know that, everyone will go, well, how could you know that much or whatever? And I think a great indicator on this, or a great example maybe. You saw me last night with Casper on the show that we did, talking about federal prison, right? Casper and I did time together for 7 months, and we did it 14 years ago, right? But we can sit and have conversations about people who are doing time in a prison on the other side of the country, and we can exchange stories, and we know everything that happened because the world that we lived in was a tight little microcosm of people that bounce back and forth and tell rumors and write kites and letters, and everybody keeps everybody up to date. That's an example of what prison culture is like. Anytime there's something illegal going on, people tend to, everything comes in a little bit closer. It's like the mob. It's like anything else. And I was with a family member watching stuff on Diddy one time and talking to them about it. And they said, you know what? It's like the mob. It is the mob, right? This is the mob. This is a new version of the mob. What they were doing was all illegal. They're hitting them with RICO. Obviously, this is a version of the mob. And Jaguar Wright was in the middle of it. allegedly she is assaulted by Voldemort himself. And she was in close enough proximity to all of these people. You ever heard anybody come out and go, I don't know who she is? Everybody knows who she is. The woman was in the middle of everything. Now, you have to, like everybody else, listen to what she says and say, I believe this or I don't believe this. I'm going to be really honest with you. I think that she is such a fantastic storyteller, right? She is a fantastic storyteller. Do I think sometimes in the process of telling a story, she might tell it a little bit better than it happened the first time? I think everybody is susceptible to that, especially if you continue to tell the same stories over and over and over again, right? But here's what I will tell you. The first time I watched her, I went, this is such BS. Like, this is just a person trying to get paid. But you can go back and go, oh my God, she called that. Oh my God, she called that. She called that. She called that. All of these things that she continues to say continue to come true. And I understand that she doesn't rub everybody the same way, right? There are people that she rubs the wrong way, and I get that. But until the things that she is saying start to be proven untrue more than they start being proven to be true, I'm going to continue to side on the. I'm going to err on the side of Jag. Now, I've seen Jag rog on things, in my opinion, but each time it happened, it is an interpretation of something she's seeing. Everybody can interpret things differently. You can't hold that against people. But Ravina Denver, everybody here, there's 425 of us here, right? If I said, what percentage of you have watched, say, 7 or 8 videos of Sloan versus 7 or 8 videos of Jaguar? And the difference becomes Jaguar says it based on what, Sloan says it based on what. I understand where you're coming from. A lot of people say the same thing. I'm going to listen to Jag. And you guys can take that for what it's worth. I don't understand why they aren't prosecuting him for the guns. They found unregistered guns in my wardrobe with serial numbers rubbed off. I think I'd be put away forever. You would be. You would be. Now, this is interesting. And it's also pretty smart, right? Why aren't they doing this? A lot of times we don't know the small little crap that goes on that you can't see. You feel me? So let's just say hypothetically, they're getting ready to charge him with the guns and they're chasing these down and they go, yeah, you know where those guns came from? This dude, Johnny Scoville, got him the pieces. So they go and they find Johnny, right? And they're getting ready to charge Diddy. But if they do, they're probably going to have to charge Johnny as well. So instead they say, we'll take all the guns off the table, but we want you to testify. And now Johnny's going to go in there and say, he got those pew-pews from me, right? Yeah, he knew the serial numbers were rubbed off of him. He asked me to get a couple of throwaways that could be dumped without it. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times these things are going on behind. If you don't think they're sleazy, they'll take crimes that would make you sick and go, throw that out. We don't worry about it because we're trying to get this guy. I like Sammy the Bull. I've always been open about that. I like Sammy the Bull. However, they gave up 19 bodies on Sammy the Bull to get him to testify against John Gotti. Is there anybody worth 19 murders? Right? Do you think Allie Carter will testify because she was one of the trafficked underage girls? Ravina says, Allie already wrote numerous notarized affidavits of truth. They're filed with the feds. I'm sure she'll be testifying. I'd be willing to bet any amount of money on planet Earth she will not be testifying. Any amount of money you would like to put up that she will not be testifying. And I'm not being cold-hearted, right? But and you guys can hate me for this. Go ahead, start your email already. But we're going to keep it real here all the time. She'd make a horrific witness. You couldn't put her on the stand. You couldn't. You can't put someone on the stand that has made a million videos, right? Because there are going to be videos out there that you don't know about. And the defense is going to watch every single one of them. They're going to show up and they're going to ask some questions that are going to be really, really difficult to make square. Because some of the allegations, you can believe every one of them if you would like, and that's fine. I'm not saying that anything she's saying is a lie. I'm not. But I'm saying that 12 people that are not in this Diddyverse are going to go, what? When she starts talking about tunnels and people coming up through the floor at Starbucks and how kids are being walked into Starbucks to be trafficked. I'm not saying any of this is BS, but we got this dripped onto us. We have been watching Allie for a long period of time. We've been listening to Jag for a long period of time. We've been listening to Sloan for a long period of time. We're going to drop somebody like that on 12 people that have nothing about this. And the defense is going to come up and go, did you tell a story once of animals being brought through and it's going to be something that may be legit as hell. And the people in the box ain't going to have 9 hours to go back and start looking at everything else she's ever said. They're going to go, this girl's crazy. Don't hate me. I'm keeping it real. She's not a person you could put on a witness stand. They're going to say that she's got mental issues. And I'll be honest with you, Jag would be hard to put on the stand. She would. There's so much that's been said. You want to be able to put someone on the stand that you're not going to get any surprises, right? If you put somebody on the stand and they start talking, and then the defense comes up and goes, hey, you made a video in 1992 where you said this, this, and this, and the prosecution doesn't know what that video is, putting that person on the stand was the worst mistake you ever made. As an attorney, you can't ask a question you don't know the answer to, and you do not want to get blindsided. There's no chance they put her on the stand. Not a chance. Tommy Bird, Reese is having a morning. The school system out there sucks, and there's some issues going on with that. And that's, but you know what? Thoughts and prayers for my girl would make me happy. She's having a bad morning. Yeah, people on social media who are making allegations are not going to make good witnesses. They're just not. Now, are there going to be exceptions to that rule? There are. And you know how you can have an exception to that rule? When, like, Natanya Rubin, right? The dopest nerd has never deviated a centimeter from her story. And her story takes place in a nightclub, right? Her story, which she's told uncounted number of times, right, has never changed, and it takes place in a nightclub. There's not a lot of speculation. There's not a lot of drama. There's not a lot of, you're not going to believe this. There was, this guy stood here, this guy stood there. The pieces came up. I saw both muzzle flashes, right? Shine Barrows was a little bit above. It was a little bit below. I couldn't move. There was a wrought iron fence behind me, and I took it right in the face. But I saw the muzzle flashes, and I knew which one shot me. That's a person you can put on the stand. It's just different. You understand? Shimmy Duwabi. Not bad for a split head. I'm not picking on him. He said that himself. People who are on, this is going to be, I believe that Allie Carter has been abused in ways that we're never going to fully understand. Right? I really do. One of the things that I think we also need to take into account is that anytime somebody is yes, I do realize Little Rod listed the nightclub incident in his lawsuit. He also, in that lawsuit, he also makes references to why that got thrown out. He makes references to buying a jury. He makes references to Johnny Cochran being dirty. You know, there's a lot in that lawsuit, man. When the Enterprise letter drops, will it just list all the charges against Diddler, or will it also list who the prosecution intends to call as witnesses, etc.? Yeah, exactly, Rich. What it's going to do is it is going to it's going to spell out what the Enterprise is, right? This is not a it's a perfect word for this. This is going to spell out what the criminal enterprise is. So it's going to say on January 5th, Rich Turner met with Tommy Scoville, and the two of them discussed X, Y, and Z. This started they're going to give dates, they're going to give times, they're going to give people whenever they can. The more details, the better. But they're going to be doing a bunch of that, right? A bunch of that. You can't get the Peacock channel. Well, Sherry LeBron, this is That's February 1st, right? I can't answer that. It was supposed to be March 7th. They're arguing for February 1st. It has been reported by a couple of different places that it is the 1st. I have not seen that in writing, but I'm still counting on it. I'm still counting that it's going to be February 1st, and I can't wait. Is BR looking after? I don't know who BR is. Do I feel really stupid? Should I know exactly who that is? BR. Yeah, I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, no question. Oh, it's on YouTube. They're saying that you can watch the Peacock documentary on YouTube. I'm not surprised. Someone's going to take it. Someone's going to put it up or whatever. But it should be up. Someone going to help me with that BR thing? Do I think Cat Williams will be called as a witness? Now, you do know this is only an opinion, right? This is only an opinion, Gina Marie. So, but I think Cat Williams seemed to have a really good idea of what 2024 was going to hold. It would lead me to believe he already talked to the feds, but I don't know. Absolutely trust but document. They always do. That's very intelligent, by the way. You see that? Are the feds going to top this off with money laundering and tax fraud? They almost always do in cases like this. They always are going to. Ronnie Bowe, thank you very much. I am brain dead. That should have made a lot of sense to me. Yeah, the Ronnie Bowe. I don't know whether or not anyone is looking after Ronnie. Least likely to testify. I think Ali Carter is really high on that list of being one of the least likely to testify because regardless of how true every single thing she says may be, it's going to sound crazy to a jury. And a skilled orator, right, like a defense attorney, will shred her. Not because she's not telling the truth, but because when your statements are outrageous and the world has never heard them, it doesn't take a whole lot of dramatic pause to make someone sound insane. So no, I don't think that they will put her on. I think another really, I think a real long shot would be Keefe D. I don't think we're going to see Keefe D testify. I could be wrong. There's a lot of people, but the least likely person to testify will be Sean Combs. And he's going to want to. He is going to want to because he's going to get frustrated so many times, right? There are people like him. The frustration of their attorney not doing exactly what they want to do and the way that they want to do it makes those idiots want to get on the stand because they know if they could just tell their story to this jury is going to believe them. They need to hear it from Puff's mouth, man. They need to hear it from Puffy's mouth. I think he's going to want to testify, but it would be a death sentence if he did. This is one of those things that changes with every jury, right? But the truth is it's always kind of been assumed that if you have one really solid witness that can put someone at a scene and they can, that doesn't have circumstantial stuff. But if you got one witness like Natanya Rubin, right? If that jury wasn't bought off, how does Natanya Rubin not convict somebody like Diddy? Her testimony is incredible, right? How about Suge Knight? Suge Knight will never testify. Now, might they try to get him to testify? They might. You may not like Suge Knight. Suge Knight, by all accounts, is a terrible human being. He beats women. There's history of this, right? Not allegedly. He's been arrested and convicted of domestic assault. This guy's a wife beater or a woman beater. He's not a good person. He isn't. And according to cops and feds and people that have worked with him, he is the biggest pathological liar you will ever meet. I'm just telling you what the word is on this cat, right? But he's never going to take the stand. He's a gangster. He's a gangster. Whether you like him or not, that dude ain't, he's not fake. He ain't going to rat on anybody. I promise you he's not. Natanya has spoken to every law enforcement that you could speak to. All of them at one time or another. Hey, get this, Tommy. Drake filing a lawsuit against all YouTube creators talking about Diddy. So should I be calling my attorney? Allegedly. This may come as a shock to you, but I am not at all concerned about that. And do you know why? Because I say allegedly a lot. Lady Gaga was crying and saying she's a victim. Now, Gina Reed, I've not heard this. I promise you I'm going to look this up. But you know what I will tell you? What I will tell you is this. She had the same attorney as Diddy. And Diddy had that attorney forever. And right before this case broke, Diddy had to get a new attorney because his attorney said, we're not going to work with you anymore. And the reason his attorney said that is Gaga said, if you continue to represent Sean Combs, I'm out. And they dropped Puffy with all his money to keep Gaga as a client. So there's bad blood between the two of them, to be sure. Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. It takes 12 jurors to convict Diddy. In this country, it takes a unanimous decision to convict. It's not you can't have a 10-2, right? It takes a unanimous decision. It has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Smidge, good to see you. Okay. All right. Malcolm Chalmers says, Reggie was the rat pulling receipts on KVD, snitching on so many people. So don't be surprised if he wants to see freedom. Now, I'll tell you what, man. There is a bunch of crap about Reggie, right? There is a bunch. You're talking about Reggie Ray Jr.? There's a bunch of stuff about Reggie Ray Jr. I don't think Gaga is necessarily innocent either. Look, I'm going to tell you something, people. I don't think that there are too many people out there in the music business in any way that aren't in this, that aren't dirty. And I don't mean, so like, let's say you're out there and you're just an artist and you're doing your thing. I don't mean that you are in the process of R-wording people or essaying people or whatever, but you're part of a machine that everybody knows what's going on, right? Like we talk about this all the time, but Harvey Weinstein, right? The whole world knew about Harvey Weinstein. It was the whole world knew what this guy was, what this guy was doing. Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard that narrative, that everybody knew what was going on with Harvey Weinstein. They made jokes about it. Like the guy from Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, got up and gave a Academy Award. He said, in the award for Best Female Actress, or also known as the woman that will never have to pretend that Harvey Weinstein isn't repulsive ever again. He did that at Academy Awards. The world knew what was going on, right? Okay, then why did the greatest actress of all time get up and say, I want to thank Harvey Weinstein? He is God. So she called this man God, knowing he was essaying everybody in sight, or she was allowing him to essay her, or she's just such a part of that piece of crap industry, right? That if a guy can make a little money, well, then we can forgive him a couple of essays and a few rapes. I mean, what's the big deal? So he used some chemicals and knocked a couple of chicks out. Kind of business, isn't it? I mean, he had a casting couch. No big deal, right? She wanted a part in the movie. He gave it to her. Right? How the hell is the woman that won more Academy Awards than anybody else ever, right? going to get up on stage and say that man is God. That's disturbing as hell. But I don't believe anybody in the entertainment industry, when you're starting to get to that level, and I'm not talking about key grips. I'm not talking about people that are agents. And I'm not talking about, I mean, there are people in that industry but the people that are pulling the strings, the people that can say, you're going to be famous, but you're not. And you're never going to work in this industry ever. Those people, they're all filthy. And the ones that know about them, they're guilty by, right? Yeah, she did, right? Makes your soul cringe. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. And this is somebody that you look at and you go, well, she wouldn't need any help getting a part, right? She's the most talented actress ever. In late, but we'll begin after the live. All right, Jennifer Matthews. Good to have you. Glad that you're here. Sliding in late. We'll let that slide. It makes me sick too. But this has been going on for so long that we've all done it. Everybody's done it. You're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. We go, oh yeah, well, this is Hollywood's all about you weirdos, right? We write stuff off where if you heard this in any other industry, we'd freak the hell out. We would freak the hell out. But because it's in this industry, nobody cares, right? He was in a bind. He was way behind and he was looking to make a deal. Came across a young lad sawing on a fiddle and playing it hot. Jumped up on a hickory stump. He said, boy, let me tell you what. You play pretty good fiddle, and if you can fit this egg in your backside, I might have a contract for you. MP says, decades of people aping and recording each other. All evidence is now gone. Yeah, but it's not. So yesterday, out came from the defense. They released a document that said, we got your 8 freak off videos and we watched them. We know 8 videos exist. We know Little Rod's got 300, right? So that's 308. We know that there is, 4 times as much information seized in this case than there is in the Library of Congress. So I'm guessing not all of the evidence is gone, right? Now, I understand what you're saying and the point you're making, MP, and it's frustrating as hell, especially because Meryl Streep, that was the actor's name I couldn't come up with. Nah, Mom Star, we don't want to face it. Yeah, I lost all respect for Meryl Streep. She knew who and what he was. Everyone knew. People in film talk. It's normal for that biz. Gossip and envy, jealousy on top. You know what, though? Hey, man. He made Shakespeare in Love, right? That was a Miramax film, right? Look at these films, man. Kill Bill. Like this guy, he's a powerhouse. We can forgive a couple of grapes, right? Sick. Really, really sick, man. Well, it's not fun, is it? If you go back and watch all of the videos the videos here on the boat, we get somewhere between 5 and 16,000 views, right? 16,000, we're doing really good. 5's, about an average. I do something where I got kids in the title, any of that, I'll be lucky to get 2,500 views because it's not fun to listen to. We'd rather look away. We have gotten to a place, right, where it's a lot easier to pretend that this stuff doesn't happen than to realize we facilitate it. It's a lot easier to pretend that Hollywood is just a bunch of sick people in it, not that we've been paying for their lifestyle for so damn long that we've been allowing people like Diddy to do whatever they want. We have been allowing individuals. We supplied the cash that Diddy needed. Sorry, that was a cat problem. We supplied the cash that Diddy needed. We can sit here and go, well, Clive Davis gave him $55 million to start Bad Boy, right? Yeah, and if we didn't buy one album, download anything, or buy anything from Sean John, then that little satanic old bald guy would have been wondering what the hell happened to all that money. But we rose to the occasion. We bought Chirac. We bought De Leon. We bought Sean John clothing. We went and bought his damn perfume. 3 a.m. 3 a.m.? Right? Because nothing good happens at 3 a.m. You watch the ad for that? Oh, my God, man. That ad's disturbing. The imagery in it's disturbing. I don't know. I have a new rule going forward. It's a pretty simple one, but I have a new rule going forward. If I find a video of you or an image and you're wearing everything red and the cameras behind you are red, and the first thought I have is, holy crap, is this guy trying to look like Satan? I'm just scratching you off my list. Normal people don't do that. Honestly, how many pictures of you are there in your life? Have you ever had one taken where the red filter on it with you wearing a red suit in a red chair with a black backdrop? No, because you're not Satan. I mean, what the deuce? Damn straight. Damn straight. Who just said that? Booyah. Thank you, Renee Noel. Being deed without your permission is medical great. There's no question. I've said this a million times. Even if they give it to you and you have a great time and nothing happens and nobody touches you or nobody does anything, you got great. You give me a chemical against my will, I'm going to kill you. I promise you, man. I got no sense of humor for that at all, and I did every drug on earth. But don't give me a substance without me knowing about it. I will crush your skull. I don't want anything happening to me psychologically that I didn't make the choice to do beforehand. I never found it funny. Like people that do that crap. And I've seen it happen. I've seen a ton of people. I've never seen it done for the reasons that he did it. But I remember people thought it was funny as hell. In the club scene back in the 90s, like guys that acted like asses in bars and did stupid things used to get dosed up all the time. It was just like you saw that crap happen all the time. I had a brother-in-law it happened to. Drinking contest. He told a dude he could drink him under the table. And the dude just dosed up the first drink. The dude was unconscious by his third one. Do that to me. I swear to you, man, I crush your skull. There's nothing funny about giving somebody a chemical without their knowledge. It's psychological grape. There's no question. I agree with you 100%. Natalie Strausser, I'm glad you're here. Hey, you know what? You say he looks like Satan. Did you see the picture that I ran on the Diddy? On the Bieber show I did yesterday? Did you see Usher's picture in that? Every one of these stars does a layout in red trying to look like Satan, right? That's the same visual imagery as you get from the one that Diddy did. The only difference is he doesn't have a shirt on, so his freaking arms look all red and crap. He looks like Hellboy. Still disturbing as hell, though, isn't it? I got a good rule for you. Come across one of those, maybe cross them off the list. Maybe cross them off the list, or maybe you're into it, right? Do what thou will. Right? That will be the totality of the law or whatever. A little Satanism, a light running Church of Satan in California. Miss me with all that crap. And I love the people who go, come on, you know what? Those guys are just, they're clowning around more than doing anything real. Yeah? Well, I happen to believe, right? So, and the God I believe in, I don't think would have a real good time with that clowning around. That's me personally. You can believe whatever you want, peeps. You know that. I don't crap on anybody for their beliefs. As a rule of thumb, though. Dead cells, pretty bad, right? That's pretty bad. Do we know if Diddy's or Jay-Z's homes burned down? As of the last time I looked, Diddy's home was not even threatened, and Voldemort didn't lose any properties either. So now I know it has been reported all over the place that Diddy's house burned down. It has also been reported all over the place that these fires were started to eliminate evidence. I know we want it. Like we want at this point, we want everything on earth to be tied into Diddy because we want to see justice. And the more that comes out, the more we got a shot at justice. But you know what, man? Not everything comes back to Diddy. And those wildfires, I believe they were started, but I don't think they were started because of Sean Combs. I think there's not enough money in that scenario to destroy the amount of property and stuff that got destroyed to go after just, to me, that's a money grab. They want to rebuild Malibu and all of those places exactly how they want to do it. They're going to destroy that, burn it to the ground and rebuild it, but it's about money. I think that this looks a lot like Maui, folks. This looks a lot like Maui to me. And I think when it's all said and done, we're going to see the same kind of people buying all kinds of stupid freaking, huge amounts of property. It's just disturbing, man. But Chase the money. Chase the money. Yeah, just like Hawaii, man. Just like Hawaii. Yeah, bigger than Diddy. Way bigger than Diddy, Lisa Pritchard. I agree with you. Way bigger than that. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. A land grab, says Jennifer Matthews. I think so. You know, I think so. Oh, look what I got. Squirrel that zip zip. You know what's funny, folks? I've had to, this was only going to be about an hour and 30-minute show, but the cat was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago to jump up on my shoulder for that tough ending. She's pretty good. Problem is, you know, sometimes backstage, she has a rider, you know what I mean? Like in the green room. So there'll be cat treats, there'll be a scratching post, you know, all kinds of stuff. And occasionally she kind of gets preoccupied slapping things around and she forgets all about her job, which technically is to be in this basket. Hey, Little Miss, get in here. No? That's what happens when you leave your cat with a rank amateur. Johnny Scoville has spent way too much time spoiling this animal. That's what it is. She no longer acts like a professional. Now she acts like an amateur.
She's uppity.
Yeah, she jumped on my shoulder, got up there. She won't get in the basket. She's just snippy. All right, people. I am going to be back later today. We're going to be talking about, well, probably about nasty stuff. You know what, Professor Patty? There's a recall effort coming against that man. So we're going to see what happens because there seems to be a paradigm shift. There's a lot of people that don't seem to like this guy anymore. Even people that used to like him don't seem to like him anymore. What happened in California, you want to see how this plays out? Honest to God, go look at Lake Tahoe. Half of it's in California, half of it's in Nevada. Look at what burn damage gets done on either side of the lake. Nevada cleans out around the houses, right? Which isn't as pretty, but it gets rid of fuel that's going to destroy that house. They won't do it on the California side because it's considered, I don't know, uncool or some shit. But the California side burns to the ground. The other side does not. There's a reason for that. Squirrel, are you coming down? Come here. Come on. She really is a good kitty, though. She's the love of my life, that kitty. Well, second one. Well, one of them is the love of my life, and the other is the other love of my life. You can figure that out. They have arrested a couple of people for setting fires. Again, this is going to sound crazy, right? But they arrested somebody for starting the fires that is in the country illegally. Right? When they find somebody that fast and the person's in the country illegally, I worry that we're being fed a narrative. Maybe I'm just so paranoid and cynical now, right? But I worry that we're being fed a narrative and that, you know, they want us to be upset about people coming. And I'm pissed about that border more than anybody because it means dope coming across. I just hope all of this is the truth. You know what I mean? All right, peeps. You have a pug named Peggy Sue? I love you, Peggy Sue. Well, look who it is. It's about time, you spoiled little diva. Oh, Beyonce's mom's house? Yes. Yeah. Beyonce's mom's house is either gone or damaged, but yes, absolutely. That's the truth. Squirrel is punishing you for cheating. She's the one that was cheating. What are you kidding? I mean, I played with a couple of cats, but she was sleeping with Johnny. She's such a good kitty. All right, people. I am the Admiral, and this is a cat in a basket. I will see you all in the next one. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. All right. God bless. We'll try it on the touch screen.